welcome back to Parking Games and Draws, and today I'm going to be talking about North Korea, which is one of the most secretive and isolated countries in the world, and how it became super poor compared to its southern neighbor, South Korea. Let's get into it. North Korea is one of the most isolated countries in the world, but it's also one of the poorest. Despite its vast natural resources and its population of over 25 million, the nation remains underdeveloped and impoverished. But just to get a grip on why North Korea is so poor, we gotta look back to the country's oranges following the end of World War II and the collapse of the Japanese colonial rule in Korea. The peninsula was divided into two zones, the Soviet-backed North and the America-backed South. I wonder where that idea came from. Anyways, under developing leadership in Kim the second Sung embraced a communist rule similar to that of the Soviet Union, while South Korea adopted a capitalist approach. I wonder where that came from. But so I think you can understand why in 1950 the two countries went to war, leading to massive destruction on both sides. Okay, that sounds like a war. Bad things are gonna happen. Anyways, by the time that the Korean War ended in 1953, the Korean peninsula was devastated, but North Korea seemed to have a significant advantage over natural resources, better trained workforce, and significant support from the Soviet Union and China. However, that did not work, and you'll see why. Kim the Second Sung, the founder of North Korea, which they actually have a holiday based off of, and their calendar system was based off when he was born. It's weird. Implemented a self-reliant economy strategy known as Juhi. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's on screen. This ideology emphasized political, military, and economic independence. On paper, it was a strategy to ensure that North Korea would not be dependent from foreign powers. But in reality, it's isolated as a country economically, and because of that, that made it a bit more resistant against developing modern country, technologies and international trade and stuff, because, they're constantly hey, I don't want to trade with you. You're mean for no reason. So, under Kim's leadership, the North Korean government prioritized heavy industry and military spending over agriculture and consumer goods. Not a good idea. The centralized command economy allowed the government to control nearly all economic activity. While this approach initially led to rapid industrialization in the 1950s and early 1960s, it quickly turned out bad as the rigid system could not adapt to changing global economy. For decades, the North Korean relied heavily on aid from the Soviet Union and China. This support helped sustain the regime's military ambitions and its falling industries. But when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, I think you know where this is headed, North Korea lost its biggest ally and vital source of aid. Without that, they basically only had China. This lost all of their Soviet oil, machinery, and economic support. Youch. North Korea's economy went into free fall. This decline was exaggerated by the country's refusal to open up the global market. Silly little North Korea. And the 1990s brought a catastrophe that plunged North Korea into further poverty. A series of floods, droughts, and mismanagement of resources caused the North Korean famine, also known as a Doris March. I'll put it on screen. What are these? In 1994 and 1998, this famine is estimated to have killed between 600,000 to 2 million people. The country's collective farming system, poor infrastructure, and lack of external aid only worsened the crisis. It doesn't help that, you can see, North Korean kids, eating grass. It's not the best. I don't know if they helped it too much, though. I'm pretty sure it's still kind of like that. During this period, the North Korean government diverted most of its resources to the military, leaving civilians to starve. While humanitarian aid eventually did reach the country, the regime's refusal to reform the economic system meant that North Korea's agricultural and industrial sectors never fully recovered. Even today, food insecurity remains a persistent issue. Once again, kids eating grass. I might have a picture and put it on screen. North Korea's decision to pursue nuclear weapons in the late 20th and early 21st century has led to severe international sanctions. These sanctions, imposed by the United Nations, the United States, and other countries, have targeted North Korea's ability to trade weapons, minerals, and other valuable resources. Just don't be just a bad country for half a second. Maybe you won't collapse. This further crippled the economy, cutting off much needed access to foreign currency and goods. While the North Korean government often blames these sanctions from the country's poverty, it is important to note that the regime's prioritization on military spending over economic development has played a significant role. According to the estimates, North Korea spends as much as 25% of its GDP on the military, a stark contrast to other nations. I'm pretty sure all adult men and women have to spend 20 years in the military the second that they come out, at the second that they become an adult. So maybe that isn't a good idea. North Korea, if you're watching this, I know that you aren't. That's stupid. Maybe change that policy. That's just me speaking, though. Anyways, another key reason for North Korea's poverty is rampant economic mismanagement and corruption within the regime. Like how, hey, your house is burning down and you saved your family instead of these paintings of the leaders. Yeah, we're killing you and the next 3 generations of your family because we feel like it. The country's ruling class, led by Kim's family, control of the wealth. While the vast majority of North Koreans live in extreme poverty, the leadership often redirects resources meant for development to maintain their lavish lifestyles and sustain the loyalty of political elite. As another example, North Korea has roads all over the country, but they can barely use those roads because only high elites and wealthy businessmen ever have cars, so they're kind of useless. However, in recent years, some informal markets known as Jangman have emerged in North Korea, allowing citizens to engage in private trade. However, the state still heavily regulates economic activity, making it difficult for these markets to grow or significantly improve the overall economy. Another one of the most striking indicators of North Korea's poverty is the stark contrast between North and South Korea. I kind of said that in the intro. While the two countries started from similar positions in World War II, South Korea embraced globalization, free markets, and technological innovation. Anyways, today, South Korea is one of the world's leading economies, while North Korea remains trapped in poverty. The difference in wealth, living standards, and technological advancement between the two Koreas is staggering. I mean, I'm going to put the life expectancies on screen, and global economy, those are way different. It's not even funny. As North Korea faces mounting economic challenges, the entire country, it's not even just economic challenges, there are some indicators that limited reforms could take place. Kim Jong-un has introduced some market-oriented reforms that have engaged in high-profile summits with the United States and South Korea. However, as long as the regime prioritizes military power and political power over economic development, it is unlikely that North Korea will see significant improvement. Sadly, for now, the country remains heavily dependent on China for economic support. If China would just cut them off, South Korea would probably invade them by now. The Koreas would be united, Japan would be fine, Taiwan would be fine, the US would be happy, Europe would be safe. It'd be a lot better. So for any substantial improvement in North Korea's economic situation, it would likely depend on major challenges to its political and economic systems. So in the end, North Korea's poverty is one of the result of a complex mix of historical, political, and economic factors, while the regime's isolation policies and deprivation of military power has kept the country impoverished, and resilience of the North Korean people continues to be a powerful story of survival. Just don't break any of the ridiculous laws. As the world watches, the question remains, will North Korea ever open up to the global economy, or will it remain locked in poverty for generations to come? Now, you can actually kind of see this starting to loosen up, because North Korea is offering for the U.S. citizens to come back into North Korea. They're allowing it again. I think they're trying to get into the global market a bit more, but I don't think fully. They're still going to remain isolated, but I think they're trying not to be as isolated. I think they're starting to see how bad the country's doing, because recently in a North Korean conference with Kim Jong-un, you can see him crying, because at the birth rate that North Korea is headed at, there will be no people in the country by, I think, 2040, and it'll be completely empty. So, yeah, that'll be all. See you guys next time.